I think that there were two officers who were facing lacerations on their face.
All for prosecution of those who pelted them.
So let's stick with two New York clips from Mamdani. So you probably saw this with the snowstorm, and I'm curious to get your take on this.
Yeah.
From the videos that I've seen, it looks like a snowball fight. I think that there were two officers who were facing lacerations on their face.
All for prosecution of those who pelted them.
Look, I've seen the videos of this snowball fight. I think that it was a snowball fight.
A snowball fight or assaulting cops?
I think it's a combination of both. They're law enforcement. They're not engaging in a snowball fight with you. They don't want to be bothered. If they're law enforcement and that's not something that they were entertaining, then assault would be the way to go. Now, obviously, if you just hit them with some sort of snowball or whatever the case may be, I mean, you didn't harm them or anything. That's entirely different. So there's different levels of assault. But nevertheless,
well, you're not harmed until you're harmed.
But nevertheless, exactly, the act is the act itself. And the law enforcement wasn't capitulating to that kind of situation. Then we have to take that into consideration. And if they felt it was assault, then damn it, it was assault, plain and simple. But once again, this is something that comes back to bite Mamdani because he wasn't considered the strongest supporter of the NYPD as he was running for office. When you listen to some of his rhetoric in the past, some of the things that he had said about the police didn't seem to be that keen on being supportive about them. I don't recall whether or not he was talking about defunding police, but I believe I believe he did say that. I believe he did say that. So because that's a reality, you know, when you see that kind of stuff, it sort of seems dismissive about concerns for law enforcement. And that is not a good position for him to be in, particularly when they're not getting raises or anything like that, because you don't have the money to take care of them, nor did you appear inclined to do so, even if you did. So all of those things definitely work against him. And that's the kind of thing that can turn officers against you. And with all the problems that New Yorkers have, the last thing we need is apathetic or indifferent police department.
Which they've already, as you probably know, they've already had to lower the standards to get people in, the physical standards, because people don't want to do it anymore because you don't want to be subjected to
Correct.
Did you see this AOC Mamdani video in Spanish?
Hola.
Mi español no es el mejor.
No te preocupes, alcalde. Si su hijo o hija está cumpliendo 3 o 4 años en el 2026, usted puede registrarlos gratis en el programa Kinder 3 o Pre-Kinder de la ciudad de Nueva York. Pero debe registrarse el 27 de febrero, que es la fecha límite. Cualquier padre de la familia de la ciudad de Nueva York, sin importar su ocupación, ingreso o estatus migratorio, es elegible para registrar a sus hijos.
What if parasites could be living inside your body right now, causing serious health problems without you ever realizing it? Most doctors aren't trained to look for root cause issues like this. Dr. Peter McCullough recently highlighted a case in the New England Journal of Medicine where a man went blind in one eye due to parasitic worms. Across medicine, the evidence is clear. Parasites are a real and growing threat, and not just in the third world. The wellness company's ivermectin plus mebendazole parasite cleanse is a doctor-prescribed USA compounded combination designed to help the body eliminate parasites. One cycle takes just 21 days and includes a full 90-day supply. The process is fully digital, complete an intake form, a doctor reviews it, and the cleanse arrives in about a week. Be proactive with the wellness company's Parasite Cleanse. Go to twc.health/Rubin and use code Rubin to save $90 off plus free shipping. That's twc.health/Rubin, code Rubin. Okay, so they're talking about childcare for all, meaning illegals. So they are talking about illegals, number one. Now, we live in Miami. We're in Miami right now. I hear more Spanish than English outside of this studio basically all day long. So I don't have a problem with Spanish or Spanish speakers. However, speaking in another language while encouraging people who are not legal citizens to get city services, that seems a bit much for me. Am I just old and stodgy?
Okay, I can't knock that. What I would tell you is that if you're trying to cater to that particular audience, speaking their language doesn't hurt. So that's not a crime. You know, they're voted. There are folks in the Hispanic community that are voting, and when you talk in their language, it makes them a bit more receptive to you, in terms of wanting to listen to what you have to say. And what parent doesn't want, you know, free preschool for 3-4-year-olds, et cetera, et cetera. But I always harken back, and it's very important that I bring this up, because I remember when some people asked me, when you became so moderate, somewhat of a centrist per se, when did that happen for you? And I can't remember the year, but I remember when George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were in office. And I never forget, as long as I live, a reporter was talking, Dick Cheney, former vice president of the United States, God rest his soul, he was talking to him about the polls were showing blah, 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 blah. He looked at the report and said, so? And I was eating my cereal. I was like, what? What did he say? Because I had never seen, I had never seen a vice president do that before. The president, he said, so? And then he said, you didn't elect us to follow your lead. You elected us to lead, to do what we believe is in the best interest of this country. And that's exactly what we're doing. And then the reporter elaborated a little bit about something with Planned Parenthood and stuff like that. And she tried to accuse him of being against that. He said, I'm not against that at all. I'm against you asking the government to pay for it. And all of a sudden, it opened my eyes and reminded me what all of this is really, really about. Most people in this country have a live and let live attitude. Live your life, et cetera, et cetera. So what's the uproar about? Yep. The uproar is about the fact that you're going into the pockets of the American people and asking them to subsidize it. And when you do that, now you've got them up in a tizzy. Yep. Because you're saying this is where your taxpayer dollars is going to. And when that happens, all of a sudden, that gives everybody the right to speak up and say, wait a damn minute here. How is that possible? I know of a young lady that's a friend of mine that got in a car accident in L.A. and literally needed to be treated, etc. And her bill was very, very exorbitant when she got treated at the emergency room and stuff like that. And she was trying to get on the phone, get some assistance, et cetera, et cetera. They literally told her, if you were a migrant, it would be easier to take care of you. But the problem is that you're an American citizen, so you have to wait in line. Yeah. Now think about that.
Suddenly you go, I don't have a wallet.
You're an American citizen. Yeah. And you're being told you have to wait in line in the United States of America in favor of somebody who's not an American citizen, who crossed the border illegally, that is going to be treated better because it's a sanctuary city, that is LA, and a sanctuary state, that is California. How do you think that's going to vibe with most Americans? I don't care what city you're in. I don't care what state you're in. Basically, what nation you're from. If you are a native of that country and you're being told you have to wait because they're favoring somebody who's not a native, who crossed the border illegally, you're going to have a problem with that, no matter who you are or where you're from. So understanding those kind of things is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about common sense. You can't have stuff like that happening and think that there's not going to be major, major noise and friction and polarization in the country when you let something like that happen. There is no way that that's going to fly. I think most Democrats know that. The problem is they've surrendered to the extreme progressive left because they're fearful that they will lose their power positions if they don't. I think that's what the problem is more so than anything else, and that's what's going on in our nation's capital.